Hey, it's the Chubby Bartender Podcast with your host, Jason Gillum and Chad Reynolds. With a special guest each week. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hey, we're back.
Here we are.
And we've got a doctor, folks.
Yeah, it's rare.
It's rare.
We get a doctor on the show.
Well,
It's hard hearing that.
we've got our Google MDs.
Yeah, we do.
You know?
Well, I mean, I've always fancied myself to be a bit of the. I mean, this kind of takes some pressure off of me. I don't have to give any medical
No,
advice.
no. People come to us all the time.
Yeah.
So, Alex Arrington, cheers,
Hey,
sir.
cheers.
Dr. Alex Arrington.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
You got me on the
Happy to
scotch
be
tonight.
here. Yeah, that's
hey,
where
we
it's
got
at.
Pudge. Alex influenced Pudge into a little bit of a scotch. I mean, Alex is a bully. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. That just does not taste good.
Oh my gosh, I just love how it just sits on your palate. It's like so
Tastes
delicately.
a little bit like heartburn vomit.
Yeah.
Rotten fruit.
It
or,
sits there all right.
Yeah.
It sits right there on that palate, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm a fan. I don't know. Maybe it's just my.
Hey, you
Well,
know-
one of the other
Irish.
doctors that gives us the privilege to join us occasionally is a dentist,
Dr.
Brian
Morris.
Morris.
Oh, yeah.
He enjoys his scotch as
Does
well,
he?
and he's tried to take me on the tour. I mean, the thing is,
Oh, yeah,
I mean, in his own bar, but like
Okay.
Scotch is greatly dependent on what area of Scotland it is produced. I mean,
Yeah.
you get some really smoky, peaty stuff.
Yeah.
Then you get some really fruity stuff.
Yeah.
Now, Johnny Walker, if I'm not mistaken, is a blended Scotch, so it's got,
Right, not single
a few
origin.
different- Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and like the blends are okay, but
Yeah.
certainly, finding that distinction between the two.
I'd rather have one that tastes like a campfire log than
Yeah.
than that.
You know what? I'm 41.
Yeah.
And you've had me on this bourbon and this now,
Yeah.
and I've had this scotch. That's rough.
Well,
That's rough.
I can show you the hair on my chest if that.
Oh, I bet you're a woolly little. I mean, my lord, that's boys. That's tight right there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh.
that's. Whew, that's.
That takes a better man than myself.
I don't know if I'll get through this one.
I'm a
Look
you
at
know
this
what?
pour, though. Like,
hey, I mean, we don't mess around.
Yeah, you
when you go to
clearly-
Chubby Bartenders,
Yeah,
I mean,
clearly you don't mess around.
You'll get at least a double or a triple.
Yeah, this
when you
is a
sit down.
quadruple.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, yeah, easily.
So you are. So tell us about why you're here, man. So you're a. What's the term?
Naturopathic doc.
Naturopathic.
Naturopathic.
Yes, exactly. Got it.
Naturopathic.
The Munn family with your local McDonald's of Jackson, Wellston, Oak Hill, and MacArthur. Need I say more than pull in, get the app open, and pull in spot number 5, and let's go for number 6.
Gillum Insurance. We've got lots of things happening at Gillum Insurance. We have moved to 228 Broadway. Right now, guys, with COVID and the pandemic going on, don't be the one caught without life insurance. So give us a call, 740-395-0357.
Okay. So you're a doctor of naturopathic medicine?
That was the most perfect way anyone's ever laid it out. That's exactly it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, give us a 31,000 foot view of what that is, man.
Yeah, so I mean, some people might be accustomed to hearing about chiropractors or osteopathic docs
Sure,
around
sure,
here.
yeah. Okay.
It's just like, it's mainly on the coastal regions. You'll find these, it's like a whole different profession in naturopathic medicine. And it's just, it's rooted in like traditional medicine, and, like the herbalism and the physical approaches to things, and not so much like high level, sophisticated surgeries and those life-saving pharmaceuticals and so on and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's not like it's not Viagra, it's eat some ginseng.
Well, yeah, and ginseng's actually a really potent aphrodisiac and like libido enhancer and stuff like that. So yeah, that's almost like spot on.
So you're not writing prescriptions.
Well, it's weird because like the terminology gets really fuzzy. You know, when you prescribe something, you're simply saying like, okay, take this to your pharmacist, right, and then go get it. So so I could prescribe. I could say, go find your local ginseng provider. So, but my prescriptions are going to be more like, get better sleep, or like eat these foods, or take this herbalist, remedy or something similar.
So you're borderline kind of dietitian.
Yeah, I mean, RDs and I, we come at odds a lot of times because, we have, like, every nutritionist has, like, their strong opinions about what's best for everybody,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do a lot of nutrition, and I do a lot of herbalism, physical medicine. Actually, a lot of my professors were chiropractors, so I do. A lot
of your professors
Do you
were.
do you do a lot of manipulation?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of that, and I do it to myself all the time.
Okay.
Like I'm like, there it is, got it.
Yeah.
So I
It's
love
good
that
to
stuff.
know. Before you leave,
Yeah,
set me straight, dude.
Yeah, I can set you straight. No problem. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the biggest thing is that, like, and why I'm here largely is because my profession just hasn't bled into the Midwest. Like you'll see it really predominantly on the West Coast, Southwest, Northeast, East Coast. Like, it's just not here yet. And I grew up here, so I'm like, if anyone's gonna like come back here and like really pioneer the medicine, it'd be me.
Right.
Yeah, this is brand new to this area. So,
Yeah.
So I just. Are you working out of your house?
Yeah, are you practicing locally?
Yeah, so tell me, give me the skinny here. So
Yeah.
you told me earlier you graduated in 06 from Jackson.
Yeah, from 06, I graduated from Jackson, went to University of Akron, go Zips, and got my micro degree. But it was
Your what degree?
microbiology.
Microbiology.
Yep. But it was like during that I was like pre-med, and I was like headed to OU or OSU or something like that. And then I kind of like, with the opioid epidemic coming in, it hit really hard, at that
you'd
time.
have been right there in the thick of it right there.
So I was just kind of like, wow, like I need to revisit what medicine is, as a whole. And I traveled around for like 5 years postgraduate, living in China and Colorado and Oregon, all these places. And then I was like, there's this profession, I didn't know about. And then I pursued that. And right now I graduated in 19. And I moved back, and then COVID came, of course, and it kind of like threw everything for a loop. And so, I've been doing virtual practice since then.
Okay.
And I'm licensed in D.C. West Virginia, Ohio don't have any regulations on my profession, which is kind of like another mission of mine to sort of like
You want it to be regulated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's a mixed bag because, it's like, okay, government involvement is not always the best, but, you get scope of practice and you get certain like insurance.
Ethics.
Ethics are huge, right? So, I'm hoping to hopefully alter some of that, culture.
Well, it does I mean, like governmental oversight. Nobody welcomes that, but it does kind of, in one way or another, to a certain extent, without a better word, validate the practice or
Exactly.
Legitimize.
Yeah.
The
Right. I mean, the whole reason why it came into place is because there were charlatans out there and doing like crazy stuff that was not.
Charlatans.
Yes.
What's a charlatan?
A charlatan
snake
is
oil
like
salesman.
Snake oil,
Yeah.
right. And I get equated to that all the time. They call me witch doctor at the EMS station.
I did today. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, it's fine.
They said, who you got tonight? And I said, I don't know. They said, we got some doctor. I said, he's some sort of witch doctor.
It's fine.
And I don't mean anything by it.
No,
That's what I thought,
It's an endearing nickname I have at.
Hell, I'd ride a broom. Go with it.
Yeah, it's
the
totally cool.
shaman.
Yeah, I am like a shaman, right? Yeah, exactly.
Are you really like a shaman?
Well, so I don't know if y'all know my mother. She's taught martial arts at the YMCA for many, many years.
Are you Kelly Thompson's?
Yeah. Kelly Thompson is my sister.
No shit.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, Kelly and Emily.
Kelly Nimley.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was probably your graduating class.
They're just a touch before I was.
Yeah.
But I went to school with them. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Tell
So,
them I said hello.
I will.
My goodness.
Yeah, and so my mother's been teaching that for years, and like the Trinity of Taekwondo is mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah,
so it's
sure,
like,
sure.
I've been rooted in that, and that's largely why I went to China, like looking for alternative stuff. And I think there's a huge spiritual component to health, and that's largely neglected, as well as like the connection between mental and physical. They like to separate it out. It's like psychiatry is here, and then like gastro and intestinal stuff is here. But all the research really shows that it's all connected. if your gut is upset, you're going to be like, I feel like a piece of crap. So like my mood is bad, right?
Yeah.
So
And we talked about this before. A lot of it is what you eat, and and so I mean, how I guess how much schooling is involved with this doctor of naturopathic medicine?
that's a good question and that's why regulation, like we were saying, is important because you can go get like certified in naturopathy and be a certified naturopath, and that just takes like a little bit of schooling or whatever. But like my schooling required so many prerequisites, OChem, just like standard.
Almost a regular pre-med
pre-med
track.
schools,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
And then you enter in and you have 4 years of medical school, including the whole clinical aspect where you're seeing patients and performing stuff.
So what is your clinical aspect like, or because? I mean, how would you diagnose something clinically other than talking?
Yeah, so I have, because I'm come here and I knew I was coming here, I largely diagnose via, I just like use either past history, because people come to me with like all kinds of paperwork, or I'll just like kind of do an assessment based on like a little quick physical exam. And I don't employ all the labs, like pretty traditional stuff or conventional stuff.
Can you do labs? I mean,
well, not here per se, in like DC, yeah, sure. But here it would be either like, I would be like, contact your primary care provider because your signs tell me that you have high cholesterol or whatever. So I might have to like integrate with conventional providers in order to order labs and get them covered by insurance and so on. But you can tell a person's health.
so you're more remedy than diagnosis.
Well, but like on the West Coast where I was trained, I could do all that. So that's where
Construction projects? Think Geiger Brothers of Jackson. All your construction and engineering needs. Scott Massey, friend of the program. Look him up. 740-286-0800.
Hey, have you ever heard of AP Prep? Look them up at apprep.info. If you want to earn the day and be your best you, they got boxing classes, they got individual classes for your kids. So look those guys up at apprep.info in Chillicothe, Ohio. You'll be glad you did.
like here I'm limited, but I was trained as a primary care physician. So
Well, see, and that comes with probably these regulations and different things
Absolutely.
like government oversight. Then you have the ability to have insurance copays being provided and different things like that.
Well,
right?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. And like an argument we always bring is like, someone comes to you and they're on blood pressure medications, right? And then that's a real standard. Like everybody's got blood pressure issues at a certain age and whatnot. You start, coaching them and you get them through like some dietary changes and exercise, and then their blood pressure starts lowering and you're like, okay, well now the medication might be dangerous because you could drop it too low
Right.
and then like they're fainting, right? So the idea is like if you get enough scope that you can like have that dosage and change it slightly because you're
you drop it down.
Right,
or,
right.
Yeah.
taper them or whatever. Yeah. So I mean, I'm limited in scope here, and I would love to have that scope, and so that does involve some legislation. But I work with my MDs. Like I'm a fan of what they do. Like I understand what they're doing. So it's not like
You're almost like even a referral to them in a
right.
certain aspect. I mean, that sounds like it'd be more like patient preference on how to remedy,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot, like I have ideal patients, right? It's like the people who they're like, I'm on this med, but I don't want to be on this med anymore.
Yeah.
So like, all right, Alex. So, okay. Like let's compare you. Like you were saying, like you were trained as a general practice physician.
Yeah.
So, I mean, essentially, you're dealing with chronic disease.
Yeah, largely.
Like people are coming in every 30 days, 60 days, whatever. As that seems to be like the scope of care as far as a GP. And I mean, so ultimately your goal would be to do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just in a very different way.
And yeah, I've got patients, and that's even like a taboo word because of where I'm at. But I have patients that I see regularly. And, we're just talking, we're just like shooting the shit, we're just like, how's it going? Are you advancing? Are you doing these things? What are your obstacles? And then just like tearing this down.
Like in an ideal world, you're saying like here you have to refer like labs and stuff like that. But like in an ideal world, like what sort of diagnostics would you use? Any conventional diagnostics?
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Like blood work, urinalysis, stuff like that.
Yeah.
EKG.
Oh,
like,
definitely EKGs.
So you would use basically the same diagnostics,
Right,
with perhaps just a different approach to therapies.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it on the head, because even one of my greatest professors, he was a DO. He did like emergency medicine, like removed appendicitis, issues and stuff. And I was able to actually be his teaching assistant in it's POCUS, point of care ultrasound.
Okay.
And so like the ultrasound machine, I think, is like going to be a big deal in the future, where every doc now has a stethoscope around his neck. He's like the doctor with the stethoscope.
Yeah, but a lot of them are carrying those in their pocket.
Exactly.
Though,
Nowadays, it's going to be like you hook it in your phone and you just like examine the heart. You look at the heart literally.
I sold those for a minute.
Right. So, I mean, that is the future for sure.
Yeah.
And so, like, the diagnostics, largely the same. You're still going to I'm still going to give you the same, Hashimoto's thyroiditis diagnosis. But their approach is hormone replacement therapy,
Right.
which is, in many ways appropriate. But addressing like the underlying autoimmune condition there's not a whole lot of conventional approaches to that.
Right.
And so, like I said, integratively, you might have to throw on these high interventions because this is when you found it, like cancer, right? Like you find cancer at
Then
like
you
whatever
have
stage.
to throw
right,
on.
right.
Yeah. But like, I think a good one, like when you're talking about like chronic conditions, okay, like, hypertension, high blood pressure,
Right.
Diabetes.
Yeah, diabetes, high cholesterol.
And like, right now, high cholesterol, if you're just seeing a regular GP, DO, MD, whatever,
Right.
or nurse practitioner, whoever you see, they're going to write you a prescription for a statin,
Right.
and away you go.
Yep.
Or they're going to write you a blood pressure pill if you got hypertension, and then they'll see you again in a month. If it's better, cool. If not, they'll prescribe another one. Hey, here's a water pill. We're gonna take pressure off the kidneys.
Right.
All that. And so I take it that you would advocate not using conventional pharma.
It
or
just,
am I?
well, it depends on the
like. Are you still like, if you're treating a diabetic? I mean, is insulin therapy, like, does that come into play? Or
yeah. So we have a concept called the Therapeutic Order. It's a little pyramid, and essentially at the top is your higher intervention, your surgeries, your pharma, and then it goes like herbalism, and then physical therapy, and then diet and lifestyle stuff, right?
But there's a place, though, for that, you're saying, at the top of the...
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've had patients come to me, and their blood pressure was so high that they were getting, like, blurry vision. I'm like, you need to go to, you get some blood pressure meds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, at some point, you have to intervene because maybe it's just too late, right? Like, it's too far in.
Sure.
But, like, that's the thing. Even with insurance coverage, it's like we could probably save the insurance industry a ton of money, because we could, like, come in at, like, an earlier stage and prevent the surgical intervention and stuff.
Right,
and that's what I'm trying to pitch. I'm like, you got to talk to the dollar, right? The wallet, right? It's like, even for an individual, right? You're looking at, like, the copay, the whatever. If I can keep you from that hospital, that emergency medical visit, then everybody wins. And, that's like where I've seen it, and like with pain and like the Opioid Epidemic movie. And I'm like, there's so many different things you can do for pain that's just not really addressed. So instead, it's so much easier. And I get why too. It's like, people come to you, they want help. You got to give them something. You write a prescription for something, and it fixes their problem like that. And what I do is not necessarily the easiest route. So, like I said, like that's why you need like a patient who's like, I've been on this, say like Accutane for acne.
Sure.
And it's like such a hard medication that you can't have. You have to like have a pregnancy test every month because if you have a child, it's going to like just destroy that child.
Severe side effects.
Right. So I'm just like, these people are the ideal patient because I can help them. I can get them off those meds, but they have to also be willing to change what they're doing every day, and that's hard.
No, I mean, I would imagine, to your point, like, okay, we're talking MDs, DOs, it's like the Hippocratic Oath, right? Like, so they come in and it's like, all right, but we got to do that.
Oh, man, I turned off my phone.
Is that your phone? I was like, what was that?
That's kind of cool. Somebody's playing the violin all
I
of a sudden.
swear I turned that off. I swear
That's
I
awesome.
turned that
That's
off.
all right. Don't worry about it. So
soothing.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
We're bringing in see, this is what I do though. I'll be honest. That music right there is medicine, and people, we have this argument all the time. Like, people come to me and they say, like, I don't like medicine, and I'm like, well, what you mean to say is you might not like pharmaceutical intervention.
But like, what are you going to do with somebody that's been on pharmaceutical therapeutics for 20 years?
Yeah, I mean it's.
Can you take that person and work with them and get them off of that, or is it to the point where like their body is like that's just it needs that?
Well, so I am always telling my patients like you can heal, you can do it. Everybody has like the human body, like nature, and if you believe in God, like there's some divine superiority to like how things correct, and if you give the body what it needs, it will correct. It will come to the point where it's reached its homeostasis and you don't need all these pharmaceutical interventions.
Right.
And that's tough to do, especially in this like largely synthetic world that we live in.
Yeah.
So you got to have a lot of compassion when you're like approaching that. But in general, like, the intake is much more complicated for me, so it's a harder job. But when people come to me and they're on like 5, 6, 7, 8 meds.
Sure.
But we just knock them down like one by one. It's sort of
it's a process.
Yeah, what can we do, attainable goals that we can achieve, to change. Sure. And then when they do that, and then, you start giving the body what it needs, it just heals everything. And that's like the holistic approach that a lot of people are like, are you a holistic doc? I'm like, yeah, that's good a description, because you may have a heart condition and I might give you heart things, but in general, we're just trying to like regulate everything and
the whole body.
Yeah, exactly. The whole body kind of comes together, and then voila.
But like, when you're looking at this, like I'm thinking of like an insulin dependent diabetic.
Yeah.
Like, is that something that you can even tackle?
For sure.
Okay.
So yeah, insulin sensitivity, that's super common, and I probably know way too much about that subject. But in general, it's just so one thing I want to talk about, because we're having these drinks here, right? Like back
you're having those drinks.
I'm having a drink.
Punch is already sworn off of.
Man, that's rough.
Yeah.
Cardiff.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much.
Man.
I love it so much.
So I mean, but part of that is my palate, right? And so so
what's left of it? That shit's
exactly.
burned it off.
It's burned it all off. No, I think I have an exquisite palate. Yeah. But yeah, so like, back in the day we used to have like they call them like aperitifs, or or afterward it'd be like digestives, which is like a Manhattan. You put like bitters in your whiskey and all that. So, it's like all these old school practices, they largely are like regulated.
Remember those things Steinbrück got us?
Yeah, we got some.
That would be a digestive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like with insulin sensitivity resistance, which is diabetes, and people loving their sweets, everybody loves sweets, right? It's like largely timing. If you're drinking, Coke every day, throughout the day, your like sugar levels are going to remain high, and then you're going to have like this insulin bombardment, and eventually the body's like, la la la, I can't handle this anymore, so you get sensitivity. But if you had a sweet, like we have a salad, which is bitter, and then we eat our big meal, and then we have our dessert, which spikes insulin, but that's an appropriate timing. Because you just ate all these calories, you want to insulin come on in, and the same with like the bitter, drinks or whatever. That's targeting digestion, and so I mean, it's just largely about just coaching folks. Like, okay, like have your sweets, but have them at this point in the day, or have your bitter greens with that meal or whatever. You know.
Right.
So.
Okay.
So you're basically I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, but you're basically a doctor of the past.
Yeah, for sure. I like to call myself the country doc.
Yeah, I mean, back, whenever you just had that small town horse and buggy stuff,
exactly.
You just had the doctor down the road.
Right.
All those doctors would have been basically doctors of naturopathic medicine,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because there wasn't, they couldn't just write you, there weren't pharmacies, were there? And at pharmacies, you might get like, what was the thing that they'd put you out with? Chloroform. Yeah, chloroform. They would sell stuff like that. Yeah. Maybe high-end rubbing alcohol, or
right.
But you weren't buying any medicine.
Well, even back in the day, they used to be like, take some whiskey and lemon. And
They basically give you a recipe for a hot toddy,
right? Exactly.
or like gin and water,
right.
or sherry and water.
Well, yeah, and
like sherry was considered like medicinal,
right? Right, and it still is, and I feel that way about it. And I think just like, when you introduce enough, whatever. Toxemia is what we call it in the profession. You sort of, like I said, the therapeutic order, when someone's so bad off, you have to intervene pretty heavily, right? Sure. So like hopefully you can catch it before that. But even the small stuff adds up. So, if you are severely insulin dependent, right? I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, just drop the
Quit
insulin.
taking your insulin.
Yeah, right. That's dumb. That is a dumb approach. And that's why you need a doctorate. Like that's why you have to understand all those things.
Okay.
And then you're just like, okay, we're going to do all these small measures. And then once, things start changing, we can like have you talk to your prescribing physician about the...
And maybe we can get that done.
Right.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I've seen it even like my stepfather has got... it's like type 1.5 diabetes. So he had an autoimmune disorder that destroyed his insulin-producing cells.
Okay.
Right. Well, he got a monitor that like regularly, it's like on his skin, and he's got like a 24-hour monitor. And I've been like, coaching them on food and stuff because this is my mom. I'm like, I care about you. I would tell you what, I know.
Yeah.
And, he's like, oh my gosh, it looks like I'm producing insulin because he had like a drop after he had eaten. And so, I was just kind of like, well, maybe that's maybe we're like slowly reversing this autoimmune disorder. I don't know. It's like hard to say, but certainly I believe in the power of it because it's affected me personally a great deal. Like just going to school, I was able to get rid of acne and allergies and a little bit of arthritis I've had from some tears and stuff. And I'm just like, even if I theoretically believed in it, like that's totally convinced me that I can change things.
All right, Alex. So let's go here now. I mean, we've talked a little bit at a high level about what this is. All right, let's talk a little bit about Alex. You grew up in Jackson.
Yep.
Why are we here talking about naturopathic medicine, man? I mean, what's the story?
It's a deep story, and I hate to get a little somber, but it just
after it.
Yeah, it started in high school. I was like convinced I'd be a like healthcare provider. I just want to help people, and I'm a big science guy. Like shout out to Mr. Bowman, my chemistry teacher and stuff.
You probably had horrible grades.
Right. I had moderate grades, but that was because I was like smart enough to be like, I don't need to get an A.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to do this. But my senior year, I was like, I should probably focus, so I did. But yeah, Mr. Bowman was great, and Mr. Strasser was my calculus teacher and stuff. So shout out to those guys. But yeah, after I graduated, I was like, yeah, I'll be pre-med. And it was my sophomore year in medical or in pre-med, like undergraduate, that my best friend had really changed personalities, and then basically it was because all his friends left for college, and he just like ran with a new crowd, and the crowd wasn't so good. So yeah, he ended up overdosing and dying of fentanyl, which is a synthetic opiate. And I was like, maybe I'm approaching this the wrong way. Like maybe there's more out there. And so I took another look at life. I traveled a bunch, and it was in Denver. I was tutoring at OChem, O2T, and she was like, I'm going to be a naturopathic doctor. And I was like, what is that? So I looked into it, and it had all the rigors of conventional medical school. Like we had a cadaver lab, we had a clinic, we had all these things. And I was like, oh, well, that's intriguing. And then, and I was raised a Boy Scout. Right. So I was like, they're always been like, jewel weed is good for, whatever. Right. So like, I loved like botany in a sense, even though I hated studying it. But yeah, I was just like convinced of that, like the plants had more to offer. And even, like this is controversial, of course, but like no one's ever stolen their mother's television on cannabis, So like, I'm just like, why is this demonized? And like once you leave the country for long enough, you're like, this is like a societal thing and really not like, rooted
more of a Jackson thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, societal.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, even like, and then you get into it, and you're like, wow, this is like Appalachian grandmother magic medicine. Like this is what your grandmother would tell you because they held a lot of the wisdom from traditional medicine stuff. So it just like really aligned with what I felt was was an appropriate alternative approach.
So
to things.
am I understanding you correctly that I mean, we've talked about a lot on this show, and I mean, I don't want to take a deep dive into it, but like the opioid epidemic in your hometown kind of drove you to this particular type of medicine because it made you question, like, okay, like there's some good in this, but there's also some real bad in this. And
I mean, I would say I would use the word triggered. Okay, because yeah, I can remember packing for. I was leaving the apartment or something, and I got the call, and they were like, "Chappie's dead," and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like that is unbelievable. But like, and yet at the same time, it's understandable given all the circumstances that he was under. But it was just like, at that point, I was like, "Can't do it. Can't do this."
Right.
So
I can't put myself in a spot where I'm prescribing that sort of medication.
Exactly.
Why do you think? I mean, do you know much about? I mean, as far as the your pain doctors, why are they just giving this stuff out so easily? With like, it seems like they've taken all the try out of the American or the patient here, especially. I say the American, but just the public in general. They've taken. It's like, oh, well, you don't need your back to hurt. I know you're 250 pounds and overweight, but here's just some Vicodin to get you through the day. Where a guy like you's probably going to come in and say, well, the first thing we got to do is adjust the amount of down pressure on your spine. Right? Is that kind of where, I mean, but why are they just throwing that stuff out there like this? I mean, you talk about regulation, and those are the same people that are allowing, I mean, that is a war, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What they've done to, especially like Appalachia. And now they've made it to where now they're manufacturing their own because they can't afford the pharmaceutical stuff, and that's where the fentanyl comes in.
Right.
And that's killing them like crazy.
Well, so there's actually an extremely long history. A lot of people think what I do is new or
no, you would be in some of the oldest form of medicine.
Right. So like 100 years ago, you had all these different branches of medicine, and like, there was a lot of money involved. Like Rockefeller, discovered that pharmacy used certain petrochemicals for their production. So they're like, oh great, let's provide grants to those people, right? So there was some influences externally, but in large part though, markets, for example, they favor they want to please their consumer, and so even with the cannabis industry, for a minute I was actually recommending cannabis on DC virtually, and I was like, this is better than opiates, right? So, I justified it, but it was largely, and you see this now with commercials, you see like Humira is going to solve all your problems, and they come to the doc and they're like, give me Humira, right? Yeah. And if they don't comply, well, then they find another doctor. Yeah. So there's just like a lot of this, like, please the consumer, whatever they want, the customer's always right. So it's a great business model, finding something highly addictive and like.
I think it's wild. If you run the clock back even 20 or 30 years, I mean, it is wild that prescription medications that can only be prescribed by an MD or a DO are being advertised during the Super Bowl.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you talk about a flip of the model.
Yeah.
I mean, who's the doctor, man? That's making me the doctor. Like, I need to try that shit.
Yeah.
And
they hit you with every single symptom of everything.
Oh, buddy.
Does your back hurt? Does your feet hurt?
Oh, I mean, and it's just, I mean, that's where we are as far as that goes. Yeah.
So this sounds like, insurance isn't paying you anything.
No, on the certain states that highly recognize my profession, I can take insurance like Blue Cross Blue Shield and Medicaid.
So Colorado, where it's does a doctor of naturopathic medicine, does that automatically jump into the medical cannabis world?
Not necessarily. No.
So you couldn't prescribe like in Colorado?
It's all about the states' laws, their scope, and etc.
But prescription means go take this amount.
Right.
Where you're more of a, here's your lane. I'm gonna prescribe, or I'm gonna advise you on how to stay in it.
Well, I do prescribe. I mean, there's like, again, it's about like language and being weird about that. But I would say, get 8 hours of sleep. That would, to me, be like a prescription, right? So if I'm, and that's what's largely weird about even the cannabis industry. A lot of times you get like recommendations, and then the patient just goes and gets whatever they want, right? Yeah. Which is odd. In my opinion, it's just like not right. So I only did that for a short period of time. What's more appropriate, because everyone's condition is different, everyone's individual, they have like various, their body weight's different, for example, and the dose makes the poison. I largely say
interesting he brings up body weight on our show.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, y'all probably could handle a little more alcohol than I could, right? Right. So like, I would take
just
that
mess with you. I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
Yeah.
There.
Well, the truth is though, like I drink enough alcohol, I could probably tolerate. Amount, right? But yeah, it's just, and when that's what, like, it really does take an individualized approach, So
right.
Yeah, I prescribe in a sense, because I'm like, here's the blend of herbs I want you to take, and I want you to get this dosage every day, 3 times a day or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just not pharmacies and copays and all that kind of stuff.
So like gout, you're going to throw out tart cherry juice.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I would lower your meat intake probably.
Okay.
Because gout is like tied to uric acid, and that acidity comes from like meat intake or whatever.
Would you cut back my meat intake, or would you look at what I'm eating first?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, in an interview, like I do. So this is the other thing that really like separates naturopathic medicine from others, is that I take hour-long intakes. It's not 15 minutes. I can't do that. Like I just won't accept that, because there's nothing I can do for 15
So your
minutes.
intake appointment is an hour.
Yeah,
at least
full hour, and I'm just, all I'm doing is, that's not even like half of it, because I'm just asking you a ton of questions, and you're not even getting the plan, because the plan comes after the fact, after I've thought about what you told me.
So do you charge by the hour, or how do you charge?
Yeah, I charge by the hour, and it's all, you got to pay the, it's there's no insurance coverage unless you have an HSA.
You can use the HSA.
okay.
Yep.
So how much are you an hour?
Well, right now I'm on a limited $200 an hour price.
Okay. So you're basically like a $200 consultation fee.
Mm-hmm.
You'll gather that information.
Yep.
Okay, and then
they can expect an email after
with a plan.
Yeah, it'll have like bulleted like, one, okay, here's the herbs I would recommend, and then 2, here's some like dietary stuff we need to address, and I go through like every modality I can. So even physical medicine, I might not be able to touch you with a virtual appointment, but that is still largely.
Yeah. That's all data. I mean,
Right.
you just need data.
Well, I mean, if you came to me and I cracked your neck or whatever, you feel good for the moment, right? But like, that's not going to like empower you to be healthy for years to come. So I might be like, you need to like stretch, or you need to do these like particular, like I'd give you imagery, like take these stretches and do these things. And I'm very extensive with my follow-ups, and the intake is always like, what do you eat, and how are you pooping, and how are you sleeping, and because I want to know how the whole body's functioning.
Yeah, it's a machine.
You're right, exactly.
Yeah.
Everything's connected.
It's all connected,
right?
yeah.
So Alex, I'm intrigued. All right, so right now in like, let's say you're the East and West Coast, like if you would practice in California right now, like could you bill insurance and things of that nature out there?
Well, I actually don't know about California right now, because they had some setbacks or whatever.
Okay.
But certainly Oregon, I took Medicaid.
Okay.
Washington is very accepting. Montana is very accepting.
Okay.
You lived in Montana?
I didn't, but I just know that I could make money
Well,
there.
so let me ask you then. I mean, that was what I was getting at.
Yeah.
I was walking you here, man. All right, so you must be really passionate about this area, because you could go out there right now and set up a practice, but you want to do it here, and you want to educate people, and you want to do that. And I think that's awesome.
For sure, that's it.
But like you're choosing the tough road, right?
I am. All my colleagues look at me very funny.
Oh, okay.
They're like, why? Why? I'm like, 2 things. One thing, family, and then I see potential because Wisconsin just licensed like a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And Maryland and Pennsylvania have licensed.
So we're getting surrounded.
Yeah. I mean, it's close.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I'm well suited for this, because I have the roots, and there's actually a pretty good association in Ohio. They're mainly centered around the northern part because of the Cleveland Clinic, a little more like advanced stuff. Mm-hmm. But like, I'm on the river here, and my father was a coal miner in West Virginia, and I feel like I could take that story and especially the opiates and the shortage of primary care and all that, and go to those West Virginia legislators and be like, hey, look, it's time to wake up. Like, you need to you need to regulate this industry because it would be positive.
Let's go back to our roots, man.
Yeah, exactly. The Appalachian roots.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot for me. Like, I could spearhead my profession.
You're going to be the first one.
I mean, I'm definitely the only one around here. Like, there's maybe one in Lancaster that I know about, but like in this area, I'm the only one.
Yeah.
And that's just because our profession is small, and it makes sense because there's not, there is a struggle there, right?
Well, I don't, it's just like, I mean, you probably, I think, I remember about a year ago, you started maybe following us.
Yeah.
And I think I was like, well, who's this guy? Okay. And I remember your face, but I didn't know your name. And then I see what you're doing. And, but I think one thing is people are just now kind of maybe starting to learn, because, I mean, you've been a guest now or planned to guest for a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
About 3
and
or
I
4.
still until tonight didn't know what you did. You know, and I think
it's great. I look forward to this getting out there.
I do too, because
Yeah.
it sounds like I think you're not necessarily. I think a lot of people think, oh, he's a witch doctor. He's trying to step in on these guys or whatever.
Well, I think that there's probably. I mean, there's certainly a sector, and I think that society to this point has been trained this way. Mm-hmm. But down here, I think
How's that working?
I think that you might have I think that down here you might have a window, because I think that people down here might be skeptical enough and have had that experience with the opioid epidemic and stuff like that they're going to be like, hey man,
he seems like a guy. He your practice and your profession seems no different. Hey, have a primary doctor, okay, and have a trainer. Mm-hmm. And have a doctor of naturopathic medicine. Yeah. And that way, hopefully, this guy can help you out with this guy, and you're kind of working not as a team, but everybody's working for the same goal.
Right.
No different than maybe a life coach.
Can you work in lockstep with an MD?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, one of my best friends is an MD in Akron, and we work in lockstep, and that's how we practice.
So it's not like you have to bump heads and be like, what he's doing will kill you, man.
Right.
And he doesn't have to look at you and be like, no, dude, that is hokey, or
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, what's fun having like a close friend like I do is an MD is he'll send me stuff like he just got a new textbook about herbalism and primary care, and so it's like, you know what, like, I see, it's you guys
kind of coming,
it is
kind of coming together, yeah.
And then even just maybe in his friend, of course, I've influenced him. He had a patient who was having really bad eczema on their knuckles and stuff like that, and it's like, well, steroids will help, but like only for so long, and like
temporary fix.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, maybe you should address the lifestyle, and then like bam, like that's it. Like his mind is then thinking of me, and then that's really where we need to be. Is like when someone comes to me and they're like, I have all these issues, and I'm like, well, you have blurred vision with hypertension. Like, you should be talking to this guy. So it's just about referral.
Right. Yeah. Like if they've made their way to the top of the pyramid,
right? Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, hey man, that guy needs heart surgery tomorrow.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I like working Jackson EMS. And like shout out to those guys, because my God, like they work hard, and I'm like happy to provide a little relief. When I do, but it's like we have this like joke. It's like we see like a really bad car accident. He's like, what's your naturopathic approach to this? And I'm like, I don't know, chamomile tea. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Yeah. Like, no, we're going to like stabilize. We're going to intubate. We're going to do all these high intervention.
Right. Sure.
Right.
I mean, you have to, Yeah. I mean,
but what's funny is like all the CMTs are like, or they're paramedics mainly, but they're like, what do you think about cinnamon for
they still want to know,
right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's intriguing, and I think that we've all lived in a culture where we realized the side effects.
Oh, I eat mushrooms for certain things.
Yeah.
You know,
dude, you're probably closer to this than
Yeah, mushrooms are powerful, man.
I had a really bad experience with St. John's wort.
Oh yeah.
I think it reversed on me, and I was taking that and ginseng.
Oh yeah.
And it sent me into like the deepest, darkest depression I was ever in my life.
Well, so yeah, that's interesting to me to hear because there's a hormesis curve or whatever that's what they call it, where at certain dosages it becomes opposite. Like, have you ever had too much caffeine and then passed out or something like that? I don't know, like.
Felt like crap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the dose really, truly makes the poison. And, people are coming to, like, they go to GNC and they get whatever. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's the right dosage for you. Like, it might not affect you at all. Or it might be too much. It might be like...
I think I hit my system with too much.
Yeah, you probably did.
At one time, because I started taking, like, it was just one of those things I was in, it was Nature's Valley.
Oh, yeah.
And I was in Walmart, and I was like... Well, hell, that says positive mental health, and I was like, hell yeah, sign me up.
And if you're like me, I look at those things and I'm like, well, I mean, it's saying take one a day.
Worst thing they did is put it in gummies.
But I weigh like 280 pounds.
so
That's not who they're talking to.
Right.
I'll take 2, but I'll start off with 3 just to get my system going.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so like melatonin is a great example of this.
I've heard melatonin. Like, okay, so my wife and I, we may try to have another baby. Okay,
Oh, yeah?
may, we don't know. You know, we're at that age where we got to
You
figure
don't
it
want
out.
any melatonin then.
Well, melatonin kills your sperm count.
Stuff to say.
Really?
Yeah. Have you?
That's fine. I've never heard that.
You never heard? What have you heard about it?
Well, so like the thing about melatonin.
Helps you sleep?
Yeah, everybody uses it for sleep, but so you go like to Kroger or whatever, and you say like high potency melatonin. It's like 9 milligrams, 10 milligrams, something. But the research shows that actually, like the most potent dosage
3.
is 1 milligram, right? So once you exceed that, it does the opposite.
Keep you awake.
Yeah, it will mess
No
with your
kidding.
system. Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, if you take 1 gram, I mean, it'll help you.
Right, like it assists. It like kind of like
assists your body. Relaxing and
it stimulates the body to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas you go too far, then you begin suppressing it. So like that's
Is that why you're hungover if you take more than you should? Like, have you ever taken too much melatonin and you literally wake up all groggy and kind of hungover?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, but maybe.
I've never really.
So it's actually the melatonin doesn't affect and I'm speaking out of turn here, but the melatonin doesn't affect the man's sperm count. It's something with the woman's. Is it progesterone or?
Over here.
No, well, I had a real close person to me that had some troubles with pregnancy.
Yeah, fertility issues.
And they were taking melatonin like it was Pez at night.
Yeah.
They took melatonin at night like we take coffee in the morning.
Sure. Yeah.
And
well, and I gotta think that like your particular, I mean, it's so probably broad spectrum. Like you hear fertility,
Right. Yeah, like that triggers me.
Yeah, like you're probably like, I'm all over that. Dude.
Right, I am.
I
can absolutely address fertility because even for men, and I want to speak to this because I know you guys largely have a male audience.
Yeah.
It's like, your libido, right? Like there's so many factors that play into that, like your hormones and stuff, and that's
diet. Everything.
Yeah, well, diet, and then just like environmental stuff. People don't understand when they light their like Bath and Body Works candle and they put on the thing, like it is off gassing. There's like things that are disrupting.
Well, and like for guys, like we talk about you talk about Viagra stuff like that. Like if a guy has low T,
right? Yeah, the low T thing. Yeah.
Like I mean, there's probably natural remedies.
Yeah, tons.
That can do probably more good for the body.
But they're not instant, they're lifestyle.
No, you take a Viagra, buddy.
Well,
boom.
yeah. So that's a big thing is there's a big difference between, and like if you need a quick fix, like Viagra's going to do it for you, no doubt. Like, like I'd be dumb to be like ignore that fact, right? So I don't ignore that. But yeah, if you want to have like a long-term sustaining like sex drive, it's going to be, you have to be healthy. Like your female's got to be healthy, and everyone's gonna be healthy in order for it for reproduction, which is a very energetically demanding process, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to be
Doesn't happen real easy, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's why in springtime we celebrate fertility with Easter eggs and whatnot. Like, springtime, like, everything's blooming. There's a lot of energy in the
Vitamin
world.
D.
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly.
Sunlight,
Yeah. So to me, I'm just like, you know, like there's many Chinese medicine. I didn't study Eastern medicine, which is a large confusion. People are like, oh, do you do like acupuncture? And I'm like, nah.
I thought that's what you did.
Yeah. So like there's Eastern medicine, which is more traditional medicine stuff that they do. I'm Western. I'm like European, like ancient American or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, still, I know enough about Chinese medicine and stuff that I like kind of employ some of that, you know, the principle. And the idea is like in the winter, you like retain your Jing, and your Jing is kind of like your, you know, your fertility.
How'd that
right?
go, Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw. I want some zhang.
Yeah, you got to get some Jing going, right?
yeah.
So, Alex, how can they find you? How can somebody set up an appointment with you?
Yeah, so my practice is called, and I'm really proud of this because I really like this name, is Moonridge Medicine.
Okay.
And moonridgemedicine.com.
Screams witch doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a mountain medicine kind of guy.
Okay.
So you gotta you gotta know what you're after, right? So like that's what I do.
Moonridge Medicine.
Moonridgemedicine.com. You can find everything you need to know you can book me. It's like I have all the stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, hey man,
we're
really
gonna
have you back,
enjoyed it.
man.
Yeah,
We're gonna have you back.
Yeah.
We can do
I was
a
having
whole
so much
nother
fun. Yeah,
conversation.
Well, I'll tell you what, we could actually leave it in the comments with some questions that
what do you
have
want to hear?
for Alex, and he'll either answer your comments or we'll bring him back on and we'll do it there.
Yeah.
So,
sounds good.
man, I've learned a lot. You're
I've
kind of
really
speaking
enjoyed it.
my language here. Chad got you with the he's a hospital guy, so Chad's in hospitals every day.
Yeah.
So, I haven't even really got into this stuff with you. I want to get into the mushrooms. I want to get. I want to get into
I was hitting him with like my language, and he was probably like, Jesus.
I want to talk. What do you know about like DMT and things of that?
Oh yeah, I know. I not DMT so much, but definitely like psilocybin and like
Part two.
Yeah, but there's going to be part two.
I got part two.
So moonridgefarms.com.
Moonridge Medicine.
Moonridgemedicine.com.
Check it out.
You on Facebook?
Yep.
Well,
absolutely.
Moonridge.
It's Moonridge Medicine. Yeah.
Facebook.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, look him up. Thank you. See you.
Smash that like button. We'll see you.